Welcome to Indiana Sports Beat Radio.
So for the thousands in attendance and the millions watching around the world. Time!
Three on the way. Oh! It went in! It went in! And Indiana wins the ball game!
Know your role and shut your mouth, you jabroni!
Float game for the win! Ayla's gone. Goodbye. Touchdown, Indy. Woo! IU. America. They got a football team now.
Pretty simple. I win. Google me.
You know that I'm the cream of the crop.
Now, here's Jim Coyle.
Hello, everybody. Welcome aboard. Friday has arrived, and so has the weekend. Glad to have you along, no matter where or how you're listening. We appreciate you nonetheless, as you've made it through the week. And off week for Indiana football, so we'll talk a little bit more basketball, but football still rolls on. Don't think otherwise, as in the Big Ten. So plenty to get to there. Major League Baseball playoffs. Did your team make it? The Cubbies made it. The Reds are out, of course. Let's see. The Brewers and the Cubs will be playing. Kind of an oddity. I'm a little surprised that's how it worked out, because now you've got Philadelphia playing Los Angeles early and the NLDS instead of the championship. So I'm sure that I know TV would rather have the larger markets going against one of those teams, but it is what it is. And hey, if Chicago wins, you've got all of Chicago. So hope your team did. Then you've got the American League, of course, the Yankees pull it off, and an unbelievable historic pitching night last night by that young kid, Schlittler. He became, and I don't understand Aaron Boone, I get it, but leave the dude in, man. He was going for a complete game. And he threw, 7 pitches in the 8th inning? 5 of them were strikes to get out of that inning. And I'm like, they're up 4-0. If you can get through that inning quickly enough on your batting side, I put him back in and I give him a batter at least. If things go awry, he gets the hook. But otherwise, he could have set even a more impressive record that he already did. He became the first player in Major League Baseball, pitcher nonetheless, to throw 8 scoreless innings, issue 0 walks, and have 12 strikeouts. Yeah, could have had a complete game with that. But skipper saw it otherwise. Oh, well, that's that. Indiana football's off this weekend, so Indiana basketball trying to fill that void. Last night, earlier this week, we had open media with the guys, and you've seen all of that up at Indiana Sports Beat Radio on YouTube. You see all the interviews and whatnot. Then last night they had with the Hoosiers on Kirkwood, Hoosier Hoops on Kirkwood. As a matter of fact, what did see if we can get some photos up of that. I believe that we can. Let's get let's see. Here's one photo. No, maybe not. Yeah, there's one. There's the crowd for those of you that can see, but for those of you listening on radio, I know you can't, but looked like it was a nice crowd out there. It was kind of a cool setup, the way they put like a half a court, I guess, out there, and that was pretty cool looking. Like one of those lay down deals, but yeah, it was only a half a court, but man, that's a lot of expense. I mean, that's kind of cool, but I guess, but maybe not. But there you go. But tonight, an open scrimmage at Simon Scott Assembly Hall, where a much larger group can make it in to see those. So That's right. An open scrimmage for fans tonight at Simon Scott Assembly Hall. In case you didn't get to go down to Kirkwood last night, for those who don't live in Bloomington, probably made it a more difficult time. And you had to worry about parking and yeah, you don't have to worry about any of that tonight. So there you go. We'll be out there checking out the action again, of course, to see what goes on for the Hoosier Hoopers as Indiana football off this week, but the rest of the Big Ten is not off. Let's see. What are we talking about here? Russell Wade was second and Surprising Miller at second. The buzz. I don't know what that says, but trying to read a comment there. Yeah, looking forward to Todd Leary joining us today. Zach Osterman, Alec Lasley. We'll get you the latest intel on Indiana recruiting with Alec and Indiana getting set up to play Oregon, a top 10 matchup next week. They're a week away from that deal out in Eugene. We will be out there as well, bringing you that action. JD Campbell joins us. We'll talk some baseball later in the show as well. As did your team make it? What did you think of this little first round of playoffs, this three-game set? Thought it worked out pretty well. All games were played at the same venues, which makes total sense. It would be complete stupidity to play two at one place and then have to pack everything up, fly to another city. It just would not make sense. So made sense to me. The Yankees win 4-0. They will go on to see. I don't have the American League set up in my head very well, so I'll quickly have to pull that up to see who's playing whom. Detroit, they beat Cleveland, so they're in. Looks like they're going to be playing at Seattle to kick things off. The Los Angeles Dodgers will be traveling to face Kyle Schwarber and the Philadelphia Phillies. The Yankees will head north and take on Toronto. And the Cubbies, they don't have very far to go. They just go up the road to Chicago or to Milwaukee to take on the Brew Crew. That's kind of that's a little unique. You got that series, which what are they, an hour apart, thereabouts? Los Angeles to Philadelphia, Detroit to Seattle. Yeah, a little distance there, but the ALDS and the NLDS are set. Who comes out of that? Los Angeles and Philadelphia, baby. Somebody's going down. Shohei Ohtani versus Christopher Sanchez. I still cannot get over that Shohei Ohtani is that good of a pitcher, and he is. He's kicking off the NLDS against Philadelphia. Wow. Andrew doesn't think the Brewers are good in the playoffs, and I have to agree with him. Does Chicago just have something going this year, maybe? We'll see. We shall see. I know the Detroit, the team of our friend Kyle Neddenrep, see if they can roll on or not. Don't know of any Seattle fans. We'll see, man. It should be a fun deal, though, no matter what. The rest of the weekend will roll on, like I said. The Big Ten football schedule happens this weekend, whether there's a bye week or not. Last week, I think 6 teams were not playing. This week, I'm not sure exactly how many, but tonight there are 5 games on, and the only one of note, really, West Virginia at BYU. And then tomorrow it kicks back off. And specifically in the Big Ten, Let's see who is playing it. Wisconsin traveling to Michigan. That brings up a point I'm going to talk about. I think Michigan gets that win, obviously. I saw a something yesterday that Brett McMurphy had put out and someone had reposted saying that he doesn't know what he's talking about. And actually, it was regarding Indiana not getting the Big Ten's #1 bowl game. He didn't have them picked for making the college football playoffs and not even to get the Big Ten's #1 bowl game. Well, if Indiana were to miss the college football playoffs and they were 10-2 and Michigan is 10-2, and if Indiana misses the CFP, then Michigan would too. But if both of those teams are 10-2, I promise you, Michigan will get the top Big Ten bowl game because those bowls have their choice of who to take if there's a tie. And if you think they're going to take Indiana over Michigan, you're out of your mind because Michigan will bring a crowd. And as fun as things have been, Indiana has not shown to be able to do that just yet on the road. Not to the likings of bowl committees. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, the man from myjumpshot.com, Todd Leary, joins us on the other side right after these messages.
Andy Moore Honda is Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer for a reason. Buy a new Honda and get a 3-month break from car payments. That's right, no payments for 90 days. That includes the all-new, all-electric Honda Prologue, and you get it for just 0.9% financing. Or the 2024 Honda Ridgeline Black Edition or the Honda Accord LX, both for just 1.9% financing. Get more to your door from AndyMooreHonda.com, Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer and your best place for new and used vehicles. If you're looking for a new home in the Indianapolis area, you need Cheryl Sizemore from Brick and Ivy Realty. Cheryl Sizemore has over 2 decades of experience, and that could be the difference in getting the home you want in today's tough housing market. Reach out to Cheryl at CherylSizemooreSells@gmail.com or 317-701-0838. That's 317-701-0838. Let Cheryl Sizemore sell or find your new home today.
Huddle up, football fans. Tailgate season is here and nobody gets you ready for game day like Academy Sports and Outdoors. Swing by your local Academy store or shop online at academy.com to find everything you need from grills to jerseys and more. Be a watch party legend with gear from top brands like Nike and Under Armour, all at unbeatable prices every day. With 8 Academy stores across Indiana, including our Bloomington location, fun can't lose and neither can you. Gear up today at Academy Sports and Outdoors.
Zach Browning here to tell you about an offer you simply can't pass up. If you're looking for the best coverage of Indiana football and basketball, which includes recruiting, weekly chats, podcasts, as well as access to the best national team out there, then look no further than thehoosier.com. The best part, it's just $1 for the first week. Oh, and did I mention that you get a full year of access to The Athletic when you sign up? You can't beat the coverage and you can't beat the deal. So head over to thehoosier.com today and sign up for just $1. It'll be the best decision you ever made.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio on this Friday, and that means a visit from our friend Todd Leary from myjumpshot.com. If you have a kid, know a kid, might be a kid, need some tutelage on the fundamentals, you know where to go, myjumpshot.com. Todd Leary, how are you, sir?
I'm great. How about yourself?
Cannot complain. If I was any better, I'd be you. It's a beautiful day. It's been beautiful weather all week out there. I know what Don Fisher's most excited about this weekend is he's teeing it up. He's not getting ready for a football game, baby.
Yeah, the weather we've had to say this is October and we're still in the 80s, this is pretty fun.
Yeah, a lot better than those 90s we suffered through there for a while, but that's how that goes, man. Who's your baseball team, by the way?
I mean, I root for the Cubs. My kids started rooting for the Cubs, which made me – I've never really had a baseball team I was that attached to. So, Tim Garl got us all watching the Braves back in my day in the 90s when they were in their heyday. He was a big Braves
Oh,
fan.
man. That
Yeah.
was right in amongst it, too. Boy,
So at one point, with Smoltz and Maddox and all those guys,
Yeah.
that's when he had us rooting for Atlanta. So, I mean, everybody – when Tim was in a good mood, everybody was in a good mood. So we tried to root for the teams he rooted for, except for Alabama football.
Well, the Braves are not in it this year for certain, but the Cubbies are, man. They moving on to the NLDS after getting their win last night. So there's that. But basketball kind of taking center stage this weekend, even though we're right in the midst of the college football season. Todd, is the Hoosiers on the gridiron have the week off as they prepare to go out to Oregon. We'll talk about that a little bit later on. But right now, basketball doing some unique stuff. They canceled, per se, the Hoosier Hysteria, which at first I'm sure people got all, in an uproar. But basically all they were doing was canceling all that puffing stuff, smoke and mirrors and all that good business, which at the end of the day, go back to the Midnight Madness where you just were playing some basketball and doing some stuff, which is what they're actually doing tonight with an open scrimmage. Now that follows last night's Hoosier Hoops down on Kirkwood, which was kind of looked like a unique event, which I don't know. I'm sure you did not make it down there, but
you are sure. Yes.
Yes. I didn't think that I could have bet a lot of money on that one had been right. But yeah, kind of a unique deal though. If I had they put a court down on Kirkwood Avenue, a half a court, and right there amongst all of the action, so to speak, I guess you'd say, where people may gather for conversation and whatnot.
And what I took away from it was kind of it was a good way to introduce / mingle the current team with the student fans. And, there's not guys that we're all familiar with their names. So you're learning them. So of all years, I think this is not a bad thing to have happen. The Hoosier hysteria thing was always, it was definitely for the fans. We did not enjoy it at all. The one part of it that the little kids that come to that become IU fans, that's how when you get up close and personal, I get it. Now that I'm an adult, now I get why it's why that there's some benefit to that. But from an overall standpoint, I think what they're doing with this thing is pretty cool.
Yeah, and but I don't know how many kids get involved in that one.
And I don't either. That's what I'm saying. That's the one negative to that.
That's
more
why
interaction
tonight,
with the students.
Yeah, but tonight they have the open scrimmage back at Simon Scott Assembly Hall, where you're back to having that, and probably I'm going to assume, I don't know this, but probably going to have some tables set up to get some autographs and things like that. I don't know that, but
they will. They will. If they don't, they're missing a big opportunity there.
Well, I've got to say, earlier in the week we had our second open media practice of the preseason already, Todd, and how much of a change is that?
Big time. The last regime wasn't going to have that happen, just honestly because they didn't practice very hard. And
the last two regimes.
Yeah, well, the last one for sure. But this is just different. And it kind of ties in with what I said earlier. There's a situation now where you've got all new players. Is Sicily the only scholarship player from the state of Indiana? It's got to be pretty close, I think, doesn't he?
I would have to confirm that, but I believe that it is the case.
Yeah. So there's just not, we don't know all their backgrounds. Most people know Trent's background, but besides that, probably none of the rest of them. Maybe Tucker DeVries, but so it's just this is a good way, to get involved and get the players to also understand what it's going to be like, because it's different here than it is at other schools.
Yeah, you've got a couple of foreign players on here now that are new to the country, even much less Bloomington. Forget about Bloomington, baby. They're still navigating their way around a new country. Can you imagine that?
Yeah, well, I mean, I did it when I went and played overseas for a couple of years. And
Right.
yeah,
But can you imagine doing that as a freshman?
No, that's what I'm saying. Imagine that 5 years earlier than when I did it, which hopefully I was more mature by that point. But yeah, just the whole situation. That's the first time you're away from home, all of that, to be in a whole new country. Yeah, totally foreign, use the pun, but it would be a unique situation. But it happens so much more now. Kids travel so much more now with AAU and all that stuff. Like, I would be surprised if it was those players' first time to the United States. That would surprise me.
Probably not, especially with playing basketball. There's usually
Right.
games and tournaments and whatnot. But yeah. But now I asked something of Coach DeVries the other day in the presser, and because he has made a great effort to open this program up.
Yeah.
And it is obvious. I mean, after I mentioned, the open practice to him back at Huber's, and he said, yeah, we'll work on that. And I thought it was, in one ear, out the other kind of a thing. And no, he did not, that was not lost on him. And not only that, he did it again. But not only that, he was at the night before the open media practice, he was at an event down in Evansville, 2 hours away. So he's out getting it. And you want to talk about some goodwill. I mean, he's out there making it happen and making a great effort at it. And I asked him why. And he said, hey, this Indiana basketball is something that's very special that a lot of people love. Why not allow them to get closer to it, within reason, but to get closer to it and get them to be able to enjoy it and appreciate it. Why is it taking this long for someone for not even here to understand that, Todd?
Well, I mean, I think there's some other factors that go into it that are helping him, that he's just made good decisions. I think kind of cleaning house on the, kind of the old regime that had been there. I think just getting all newness. I think he understands, not being from here. It's amazing when you go to other places and you talk about playing high school basketball in Indiana. Like, there's respect attached to that description, and so I think he understands that, and he's come here and recognized the passion from the fans. But when you're not afraid, like, his teams practice hard, like they play hard. He's not afraid of anyone to see what's going on at practices, because they're hard work. And I've heard from sources that are there on a daily basis, like it's back to the old ways. And from a practice standpoint, hard practices, diving on the floor, still tough drills and all that. So, I mean, I think he understands the opportunity that's in front of him, and he's going to take full advantage of it, a lot like Coach Signetti did, and coming in and just working as hard as you can. And you're never embarrassed to let people see, what you're doing when you're working hard. Like, everybody's pretty proud of that.
Absolutely. And boy, do they. And that's, you remember the first thing I said to you after watching them in Puerto Rico. And well, for those that show up tonight, I think you're going to get a taste of that, because their practices are hard.
Yeah.
They go at it. But one of the things that really amazed me is they go at it every play against each other. It doesn't matter who you are. When you're coming through a screen, you might get a little flipper, a little something.
You better get one. Yeah,
exactly. But nobody takes it negative, personally, negatively. They know that, hey, they exactly, that's how they feel, Todd. Well, I better be getting this, because I'm going to be given one of those. And it was amazing to see that level of competition. And you knew that, or you could tell that, boy, they took that and are using that to learn. And boy, they really seem like they are wanting to be as good as they possibly can. Not something that we've seen on the floor for a while.
Well, and you got to keep one thing in mind, I think, is that, these guys are competing for minutes, whether they're starting minutes or whether they're just regular game minutes. Like, they're still competing. There's no real incumbents that are veteran players that are claiming positions that are going to be there. I mean, we probably assume Tucker DeVries. I mean, he's been All-American candidate. He's been All-Conference every year he's played. We're going to assume he's going to be playing the majority of the time. But outside of that, minutes are grabs. And so that's one of the competition is one of the reasons why, the practices are as hard as they were. There used to always be an opportunity for you to get minutes. If you practiced hard and had a really good week of practice, you probably had a decent chance of increased minutes that week. And so, I think that's back to where they're at. And these guys they don't know who's the starting lineup. It's probably shaking out a little bit more now. They're a couple weeks into practice. They had that great thing in August. So, I mean, they're probably shaking out who the starters are going to be, or who the big minutes are going to be. I don't care about starting, but who's going to play the minutes when it matters. And they're learning that right now. They're fighting for that.
Absolutely, because those minutes are, I'm not going to say they're going to be limited, but you can tell there is a distinct group of, let's say, 8, that top 8, that's where I wonder about Indiana this year. It would be the depth that they would have because of that. Once they get past that, how are they going to be and how are they going to handle things? But man, that 8, they're going to work. They're all going to work their butt off without question. And I think that's another great positive for fans, that when somebody comes in, they're just going to see the same thing being replicated as what they just saw. And it's basically like a hockey. I hate to use the word hockey change, because we saw that in the early parts of the Mike Woodson era, but the reasoning behind that is you're bringing fresh bodies in that are going to give you that same effort, and we didn't necessarily see that before. Now you don't do that, you're off the floor.
Yeah, I mean, and that's a good thing. Like, that competition for those spots is a good thing, but it'll shake out to where the lineup will probably expand a little bit at the beginning of the year and tighten up when we get into the Big Ten. But you're right. Like, these guys are in there. They're still battling for who's going to get the important minutes and the depth. I mean, I'm not afraid of it yet. Like, we'll start to see it. We've had years where we thought we were super deep at the guard position, and by halfway through the year, we were struggling for guards. So you never know how it plays out with this, but I mean, I think they'll be deep enough. The fouls will be the one issue that I think.
Yes.
Getting into foul trouble with bigger guys could be a situation they deal with, but almost every team across the country, not named Purdue, deals with that.
Yeah, Indiana's definitely, because though, more so, Todd, because they're going to be playing a aggressive defense.
Yep.
And I mean very aggressive. Those guards, they're up in your face, and there's going to be nights where you just draw the wrong official that is just calling fouls a certain way. And I can see nights where Indiana has two starting guards with 2 fouls in the first half. That's where it would become an issue for them, but that would be an issue for anybody.
Yeah, I mean, but everybody deals with that, and you've got to be selective about how aggressive you are. You can't start the game out, a million miles an hour up in somebody's grill. So, you just got to be smart about it. But that's the benefit of the transfer portal. That's one of the benefits you have to take from it is, we got veteran players. We got kids that, have been through it and done this before. And so, I fully expect them to handle that well. And, it'll be a little bit of a transition. Some of them are moving up in level of play, but we've seen, mid-major and even Division II guys step up into big-time college basketball and look perfectly comfortable. So I'm kind of expecting it to lean that way.
Yeah, I don't doubt their ability to play at that level without question. Lamar Wilkerson probably going to be the leading scorer on this team. I'm going to go out on a limb and say, with Tucker DeVries right there, but I've said it over and over, but the defense is something people are going to love to watch. But the second thing is both them and you are going to love to watch. And I've already predicted this. Indiana records are going to fall. 3-point attempts are going to fall. I don't know what the most attempted in a game is right now. I wouldn't be surprised if that fell on the first game. I'm not kidding, because that's such a part of their offense, just as much as, say, under Mike Woodson, getting the ball to Trace Jackson Davis was for a layup. they're going to shoot threes with the same abundance that they tried to put 2-point shots in. And I don't mean that. They're not just putting them up either. These guys can all shoot.
Yeah, and that's kind of the way the team was recruited. Like it's going to be a little more fundamentally sound, maybe a little less athleticism. But I mean, I think that the team is built to play that way, and I think it's the way Indiana fans kind of envisioned their team looking the last several years. But I just think they're recruiting back towards that direction, and I think you'll see that when the game starts.
Absolutely. We've got to take a quick break. We've got lots more coming up with the Todd father from myjumpshot.com. Don't forget, go to myjumpshot.com. It's hitting that time of year. If you've got kids, it doesn't matter if they're kids. You are a kid, boys, girls, that looking to improve on the fundamentals in the game of basketball. None better. MyJumpShot.com. Back with more Indiana Sports Beat Radio right after these messages.
Know a team or group needing a fundraiser? Boost Fundraising raises more money faster and offers the most unique and user-friendly online fundraiser in the nation. Your team receives personalized fundraising pages for each team member. Free team-branded promo gifts shipped to each donor. Boost Fundraising does it all. Sports teams, marching bands, charity causes, and community groups. Go to boostfundraising.com and be sure to enter the promo code COYLE, that's COYLE, to receive a discounted fundraiser. Whether it's a night out with the family, after work with colleagues, or catching the game with friends, Bubba's 33 is the place for you. Bubba's 33 offers a mouthwatering menu of selections that are all made from scratch every day. The portions are big, but the prices are small. And with over 50 big screen TVs, you'll never miss the big game. Bubba's 33, pizza, burgers, beer.
Zach Browning here to tell you about an offer you simply can't pass up. If you're looking for the best coverage of Indiana football and basketball, which includes recruiting, weekly chats, podcasts, as well as access to the best national team out there, then look no further than thehoosier.com. The best part, it's just $1 for the first week. Oh, and did I mention that you get a full year of access to The Athletic when you sign up? You can't beat the coverage and you can't beat the deal. So head over to thehoosier.com today and sign up for just $1. It'll be the best decision you ever made.
Huddle up, football fans. Tailgate season is here, and nobody gets you ready for game day like Academy Sports and Outdoors. Swing by your local Academy store or shop online at academy.com to find everything you need, from grills to jerseys and more. Be a watch party legend with gear from top brands like Nike and Under Armour, all at unbeatable prices every day. With 8 Academy stores across Indiana, including our Bloomington location, fun can't lose, and neither can you. Gear up today at Academy Sports and Outdoors.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio, on this Friday of week. What are we? Week 6? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, week 6 of the college football season. As Indiana with an off week this week, as they will be heading out to Oregon next weekend for a top 10 matchup between the 8th-ranked Hoosiers and the, I don't even know what, Oregon number 2 right now. Todd, what did you think of that Penn State-Oregon game?
Oh, that was, I was a little disappointed in Penn State, to be honest with you. I thought they were going to be a real high.
So we're about 105,000 Penn State fans.
But maybe you give Oregon's defense that credit. I don't know. Penn State has a really veteran team. That's why I think they're ranked as high as they are. And I don't think they've quite been as explosive as everyone, including their fans, kind of thought they would be. So, yeah, that's obviously a big win to go on the road and get for Oregon. So, coming back home, they have a bye week as well. I don't know that you can use that as an excuse either way, one way or another. And no one was, but it'll just be an interesting game to see who gets off to a good start after a bye week.
Yeah, Indiana goes to Iowa and has a little tougher time than I think some people expected. But part of that was just simply a great game plan by Iowa. And I've questioned Indiana's decision-making in the second half for not making adjustments to their offense. They didn't change it much. I'm not sure if that was with purpose, that they were just trying, no matter what, to hold on to everything they can for this upcoming game at Oregon, which very, very important. I mean, first of all, it's a huge ask, and no one is really expecting Indiana to go out there and win. I'm wondering how much they're going to be punished if they lose, but I think it's simply going to be, do they have a good game? Do they play with Oregon, or do they get beat by, 2 touchdowns, 2.5 scores or something? And I think that is of great importance to how this Hoosier team is seen going forward.
Yeah, it is. And last year, I think the Ohio State game on the road last year, the Notre Dame game, and of course I'm bringing up the ones that they lost, but this game is in that category. That's next Oregon game is in that category where you really see where you stand. And, the score was whatever. I thought the score felt closer in both the Notre Dame and Ohio State games last year than what they actually were, because I felt like those other teams dominated Indiana in a way that no other team did. And so I think I'll be interested to see if I feel that way about this game. And if Indiana is more competitive in this game than they were in those last year, because this is, probably the second best team, maybe the best team that Indiana will have played in the last 2 years. Ohio State obviously was up there, but it's up there.
Without question. And you're playing it in a place that is half the size of the shoe, but it is known to be a very, very loud place out there in Eugene. Autzen Stadium is about the size of Memorial Stadium, although it's a little more of a bowl. Although they've closed IU's stadium in, it's not completely a bowl with the stadium seats.
It doesn't have the same feel as the bowl, but
yeah,
but it is
definitely
is
not.
Like
but
that.
Very loud out there, and you know what they're going to be like coming off. Their fans are coming off of that win over Penn State. And they're welcoming in a top 10 team who's trying to take some attention away from them.
Yeah, and like I mentioned, Ohio State last year and Notre Dame, like those teams are in the category of Oregon, and they felt like they imposed their will and took care of their business. Oregon's going to want to put themselves in that same category. I think this Indiana team's a little different. That Iowa game, I forget what the score was. That is a really tough place to play. Whether it's basketball or football, it doesn't matter what it is. It's hard to win a road game in the Big Ten. And Iowa is no slouch. They're not a team that you should expect to ever just walk in there and roll over. And so, that's a good win to go get. So I think both teams, coming into next week, both teams, the question mark to me is going to be who gets off to the best start after a week off. Both teams have a bye week this week. So they both are dealing with it. I don't always think that's a great thing, and so we'll see who gets going early.
Yeah, absolutely. And what are your expectations?
I think Indiana. What's that?
I said, although we're kind of ahead of ourselves a little bit.
Yeah, we are, but I mean, I'm hoping that Indiana comes out aggressive. I hope they come out and try to play from ahead, because you put the home team in a real pressure cooker when you can get them behind early. They have to respond versus, when there's plenty of time if it's zeros on the board. So I just think Indiana getting off to a good start in this bye week. Hopefully they're putting in some stuff that, maybe you were right. Maybe they were holding on to some stuff that they're going to unleash this coming week.
Yeah, we'll certainly find out, because I was really wondering in that second, like I said, that second half of game against Iowa, and they were just continuing to do kind of the same things that hadn't been working in the first half, taking a little too much time, in my opinion, to run certain plays. But again, maybe they were holding on to that because let's be honest, it's going to take everything you have, and you're going to have to play the perfect game. You're going to have to not make any mistakes. You can't afford to do anything that will put you back. You cannot have false starts on offense. You right. Can't. One thing this team has been great at is not getting stupid penalties. No personal fouls. That shows that these guys have their heads on.
Yep.
Spaghetti has got his foot up their butt about that. Hey, we don't make those kinds of mistakes, and that's obvious, but that's huge, because teams that do that, they just simply beat themselves.
Yep. Yeah, no doubt about it. And that's one of the traits, I think, of Signetti's program right now, and the culture he's building is, we're going to be uber aggressive, but we're also, going to not hurt ourselves or shoot ourselves in the foot, play from behind the sticks. And, personal foul penalties are mostly selfish. I mean, they're guys thinking about one-on-one stuff versus, the team focus and goal. And I think that's Signetti's MO is focused on the team. And that's why his teams generally play, less selfish.
Absolutely. Brian's pointing out that Coach Griff broke down the 25 versus 24 IU team and how this team is better. Well, that's something I said coming into the season over and over. They were just a better team. Everyone kept wondering, well, is Rourke going to be replaced by Mendoza that well? Yes. The offensive line is better.
Yeah.
Now, the one thing I didn't see coming is this defensive line looks better. And they had a really good defensive line last year, Todd. But, man, these guys were against Illinois. That was just stupid good. But they were also, they put up a great performance at Iowa. Probably going to have to do a little bit better than that out in Oregon because Dante Moore, he's pretty good.
Yeah, he's really good. And I think the fact that Iowa threw the ball earlier and more often than they normally do, I think that was kind of a credit to what you're talking about in Indiana's defensive line. I think they saw some stuff in the Illinois game that they kind of thought maybe it was going to be difficult to run the ball. And if you know Iowa football, they would much rather just pound it on the ground all day and run the clock out and beat you 3-0. But Indiana's defensive line took them away from that. But, yeah, you're right. I mean, you're talking about a whole different level when you're playing – this is Oregon's in that category of Ohio State, Alabama, Georgia. Like they're up there in that conversation year after year now. So that's who you're up against. And the guy that you're across from, you're not necessarily going to overpower. You're going to have to play some strategic football. And so, that's what's ahead of them. And I think it comes at a good time. Like their schedule has played out pretty good. Got them some good confidence. Got them moved up in the rankings. And then they got to go on the road and win a good game. Got them into the top 10. And now you go play a top 10 team and a top 5 team. So I think the timing is good for this game.
Absolutely. And just the fact that they're in this position to garner this attention. This is a game that's going to be on CBS. Now they're coming off of a game 2 games ago that was on NBC. They are getting a lot of national exposure. They're going to get more national exposure this year than they're accustomed to getting in 5 years prior to that, Todd.
Oh, no doubt about it. And that's, they've earned that. But, it's like I still think we're riding the storybook right here because this is 2 years ago, this time of year, like the frustration level of Indiana football was embarrassing. And to think you could be at this point this quick is really, truly amazing. So it's fun to be on that ride.
I know that record-wise it was not a no comparison, but the embarrassment level compared basketball to football, which would you rate higher? Because people were accustomed to Indiana football not really being good.
Yeah, believe me, it's we're ready for both of them to be back, and both teams benefit from the other being good. So it's not like one roots against the other. You almost should take it as a challenge. And the basketball team has a challenge right now, and they've got to win back the fan base. Now, the fan base didn't go away. It's just resting because it's not had a whole lot to cheer about. But they can be woken up pretty quickly. And I think this team, it's a storybook. Like what Signetti has done with Indiana football in that period of time, if you wrote that in a script, people in the athletic world would say it's not reality. But it's really happening. And so the basketball program needs to kind of do the same thing, but they're not bringing on brand new fans. They're just waking up the fans that haven't had a lot to cheer about.
But they need to bring on brand new fans because how long did they go? How many years, Todd, have they gone without doing that because of not having that good product? You've got to sustain that. You've got to continue to do that. How many kids, a generation of kids missed out on probably being cultivated to be IU fans?
Yeah, to hear that there are kids that went to school for 4 or 5 years in a row at Indiana and their team never made the NCAA tournament. Like I don't know how to process that. I cannot imagine. I mean, that wasn't a.
Could you imagine having missed the NCAA tournament when you were in school?
No, I can't. I absolutely can't. And I don't know. I don't know how you process that. I understand why people would jump off the bandwagon of Indiana basketball, because I don't understand how, you put kids through there. You're not developing that fan base that's going to then have kids that then loves my kids love IU because of me. And you were kind of losing out on that a little bit, but they'll get it back. It doesn't take long to get that back started. Indiana is a blue blood, even though they've been down for longer than your average blue blood's down. Like fan base wise, they're there.
Well, let me tell you, nothing gets that started quicker and easier than with your current head coach looking up at a balcony of a bar and saying, "Next round is on me." And that is exactly what Darren DeVries did last night downtown in Bloomington on Kirkwood. Can you imagine any coach doing that? Especially, which I know this is just, I'm asking it because it's funny, but can you imagine Bob Knight looking up there and saying, "Next round's on me"?
I cannot. No, but I mean, it's different. That's why these coaches today are successful. Like they do embrace the culture and what's going on and all that. And look, they're all new. DeVries is new to this. Like he's new to this size program, to this size fan base for sure. This passionate of fan base. And so, yeah, I fully expect them to embrace every part of it and try to bring back the culture as fast as possible. I think that's their big goal right now.
Yeah, I'll tell you who's great at that. Michael Lewis, a former Bob Knight player from down there in Jasper. I know that they have had a beverage or two in that town, but as the coach there at Ball State, I've seen him many times saying, "Hey, students, come out. Your first beer and dog are on me," or something. And, it's such a different era, but that kind of fits right in his wheelhouse.
It does. But yeah, I mean, look, when you're trying to build a program and build a fan base, that's where we're at in 2025, almost 2026. So it doesn't surprise me at all. I think we see a lot more. I mean, Bruce Pearl, a guy that just stepped down at Auburn. I mean, that was a guy that interacted really closely with their fan base. And I think we see how successful that was for them in building the culture.
I'm still pretty shocked by that. Unless he runs for political office, I am very shocked by that. Because I mean, it was kind of a situation where I guess he wanted his son to get the job. So he did it very, very late in the season where they didn't have a chance to really go out and look for someone else. So that helped with that, but there has to be more to it than that.
Hey, what you just said right there is what I'm chalking it up to. This is one of those scenarios. There has to be more to the story, I think, than what we know. So it's really tough to comment on it because it doesn't make a lot of sense. The timing of it doesn't make a lot of sense. He stayed on as an employee of the university, so I don't think he would have tried to hose the university and having to hire his son. That had to be a negotiated agreement. So all of it. Like I think there's just more to the story we don't know, so it's really tough to have an educated guess on it.
I don't think we've spoken since the Ryder Cup, man. How about that debacle?
Ugh. Yeah, that was
a simple question answer. That's about how they played. Yeah. Just unbelievable how the USA just cannot get it together when it comes to those team events like that.
Yeah, the first 2 days was so disheartening. I didn't even watch on Sunday. I know they made a good comeback and all that or whatever, but man, the domination of the European team the first 2 days was so embarrassing. Like it took the fun out of it for me. I just didn't see the fight. I'm glad they came back on Sunday, I guess, but I mean, when you dig yourself that big a hole and you can win the singles matches that aggressively and still not win is a tough situation.
Robert says IU fans can thank both Miles Brand and later Michael McRobbie for
for all the apathy. I don't think that there is apathy. I think that Indiana just missed out on great opportunities, but I don't blame them. I blame the hires that came after them, and again and again and again on how things were managed. I guess let's just say that, because you always have the opportunity to recover, and that's what great programs do. They recover, and unfortunately, this one has been a stuck in the mud kind of a situation for too long. But I can honestly say, from my vantage point, Indiana basketball is in the best hands it has been in over a decade. So whatever apathy that there was, but now it's harder to cultivate that audience, Todd, because everybody is good now. And it could be whatever reason that draws someone to be a fan of somebody else, but everybody's good. And Purdue has really taken a lot of the state's eyeballs towards them. They continued to put on great programs. They got Luke Ertl, the best player in the state, probably going to hands-on win Mr. Basketball this year. So that continues, but that's something next for Darren DeVries to get that back as well. But I think that won't be a problem, because he's going to get out and he will do that. He will be out at the state finals like he has already been. Hell, he's already been at a state finals game.
Yeah, you're right. Like that will change, and it doesn't change with the snap of your fingers, because these kids, Luke Ertls of the world, have been recruited for years by Purdue now. That's definitely a guy that would have fit within DeVries' system really well. So, he would have been recruited by Indiana a long, long time ago. He didn't fit the old regime's recruiting style, and so, he didn't ever consider Indiana. But, that's a scenario that will change. Like the culture doesn't change overnight. You got to start building it, and it'll take a while and get in there. But Purdue has a stranglehold, not just on the state of Indiana right now with their culture, but really on the country. And they're going to be the favorite, I would assume, to win a national championship the majority of the season, just because of the depth of experience they have coming back and how great their coaching has been.
Michigan, buddy, they are loaded up. I'm telling you, Michigan is my favorite to win the Big Ten early on for certain. I'll tell you this. I cannot wait for the Indiana-Purdue games, because I think those are going to be barn burners, because Purdue's kryptonite is extraordinarily great defensive guard play. And that's something that I think you're going to see a lot of in that game, and it's going to be fun.
Yeah, let's just hope that it's competitive, because if it's not really going to be in Indiana's favor. Purdue's not going to get blown out with that squad they've got. But, look, Indiana should be competitive in all their games because of their style of play and their grit and hard nose. And they can win a game that's ugly in a defensive battle, and they're built to win a game that can get up and down the floor and score 90 points. So, I'm looking forward to seeing them against the good teams, and I hope when we have that discussion at the end of the year, you're throwing Indiana into that conversation with Michigan and Purdue.
Absolutely. Well, brother, I hope you have a great weekend. Enjoy it. It's going to be nice. Get out there and tee it up.
We'll do it for sure.
Appreciate you. Todd Leary, the Todd Father from myjumpshot.com, joining us here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio, as he does each and every Friday. Back with more. Zach Osterman joins us next, right after these messages.
If you're looking for a new home in the Indianapolis area, you need Cheryl Sizemore from Brick and Ivy Realty. Cheryl Sizemore has over 2 decades of experience, and that could be the difference in getting the home you want in today's tough housing market. Reach out to Cheryl at CherylSizemore@gmail.com or 317-701-0838. That's 317-701-0838. Let Cheryl Sizemore sell or find your new home today.
When it comes to apparel and promotions, Freethink has you covered, literally, whether it's 24 or 200 shirts for sports leagues, businesses, or groups. Freethink Apparel and Promotions can also create your very own merchandising store. Freethink Apparel and Promotions did it for Indiana Sports Beat Radio, and they can do it for you. Whether it's screen printing, embroidery, digital printing,
promotional products, vehicle wraps, or anything else under the promotional line. See what Freethink Apparel and Promotions can do for you at freethinkapparel.com.
Huddle up, football fans. Tailgate season is here, and nobody gets you ready for game day like Academy Sports and Outdoors. Swing by your local Academy store or shop online at academy.com to find everything you need, from grills to jerseys and more. Be a watch party legend with gear from top brands like Nike and Under Armour, all at unbeatable prices every day. With 8 Academy stores across Indiana, including our Bloomington location, fun can't lose, and neither can you. Gear up today at Academy Sports and Outdoors.
Whether it's a night out with the family, after work with colleagues, or catching the game with friends, Bubba's 33 is the place for you. Bubba's 33 offers a mouthwatering menu of selections that are all made from scratch every day. The portions are big, but the prices are small. And with over 50 big screen TVs, you'll never miss the big game. Bubba's 33, pizza, burgers, beer. Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio on this Friday. You made it to the end of the week. Thanks a lot for being with us. Keep it locked where you have it on your radio dial as you travel throughout your day. And for the best in sports coverage from around the state and all the games this weekend. Lots of football games on. Indiana will not be one of those. Purdue is, though, as they host the Fighting Illini, number 22, as they coming off of a huge bounce back win over the USC Trojans, who, man, even though they had to travel across the state or country, I was expecting USC to put the Trojan on them, but they did not do that. Zach Osterman from the Indy Star, the IU Insider for the Star, joining us now with fully equipped with another great looking jersey. What team is that, my friend? That's a good looking one.
This is Liverpool.
Yeah, I couldn't see it all, but yeah, good looking. Speaking of jerseys, a lot of baseball being played right now. I know you're a huge baseball fan, Braves fan. Weirdly, the Braves not in the playoffs this year, which is something we are not accustomed to, but some teams in it that we're not used to either. The Cubs, the Reds were, but the Cubs still hanging in there, and we'll see how that rolls on. But who's your team from here out?
Oh, I don't think I have the bandwidth to stay with baseball once the Braves are out of it. It's just there's too much else going on this time of year.
That is no doubt. Indiana football off this weekend, but Indiana basketball trying to fill that void. Their second open practice to the media happened earlier this week. Last night, it was Hoosier Hoops down on Kirkwood. Tonight, an open scrimmage at the Simon Scott Assembly Hall. And, earlier in the week, you were in there as well, Zach, but I asked Coach DeVries, it was obvious he is making a concerted effort to open this program up to the people of Indiana. He's making great efforts to get out and around. He was at an event in Evansville the night before the media practice. He is just really, he uttered the words I would have never heard an Indiana basketball coach say, "Next round's on me," last night down on Kirkwood. So, man, a lot of changes coming that are probably very positive and needed for the Indiana basketball program.
Yeah, I think I wrote something about this before the event last night on Kirkwood, and I've said this when I've talked to people about, Indiana kind of spreading out across this whole month, different fan events, different sort of moments when fans, whether it's students, whether it's young fans, whether it's families, can engage, etc. I don't think, and I don't. This isn't meant to be like intended. I think anyone who knows me knows that I don't intentionally go negative about stuff very often. If anything, I tend to try and kind of be more like a moderating force.
Yeah.
I don't think people on the outside appreciate the extent to which this program has lost its fans. And I also, if you follow me long enough, and we're going to talk about this on our podcast later today, anyone who's followed me long enough knows I'm not shy about criticizing fans and fan behavior and fan expectations when I think it's warranted. I think it is perfectly understandable why this fan base feels like it needs to have its trust earned back. Indiana, I ran these numbers. Ran these numbers. I added up 10 years of Big Ten records. It's not that special. Indiana has a game under 500 in Big Ten play across the last 10 years. If you subtract the first of those 10 years, which of course was Indiana's last Big Ten championship, which in itself says something. Indiana's 81-94 in the conference in the last 9 seasons. In the last 9 seasons as well, Indiana's made it to 2 NCAA tournaments. I think neither one of those runs did Indiana get out of the first weekend. Their losses, the losses that ended those runs came by 29 and 16 points. We can go on and on. Archie Miller never beat Purdue. Mike Woodson never beat Northwestern. Just quite frankly, Indiana has been a mediocre basketball program for a while now. And if you want to zoom out even further, Indiana has not been to the Final Four in 23 years. It's not even been out of the Sweet 16 in 23 years. Indiana has won, I think, 3 Big Ten championships, or at least a share of 3 Big Ten championships this century. Indiana basketball fans are just tired. And there are other elements. Some of them are local. I think there's a lot of soap opera that goes on around the program that really frustrates fans, especially when, you can tolerate soap opera when you're winning, but when you're losing, it just feels tedious and tiresome. Basketball in general, like nationally, is losing fans to football. And I think that's playing out here as well because the football program is doing so well, but that's also just a national trend. Football's popularity is climbing. Basketball's popularity is stagnating for a variety of reasons, not just in college, but in general. And you also have, I think, the portal element to all this, which is that fans will get attached to players who come in the portal if they win. Look at UConn with Cam Spencer and Tristan Newton, for example. But if they lose, fans don't have years-long relationships with those players going back to when they were high school recruits and freshmen and, sort of saying, well, we watched this guy, come up. We know how much he loves it. We know how much he lives and breathes IU basketball. Listen, there are a few players like that. I think that's why Anthony Leal was, so widely appreciated by the fan base. But it's easier to let go of a team that is struggling when you have no real emotional attachment to its roster. And that's one of those things that the turnabout is, if those players win, you develop that emotional attachment. But for a long time, the attitude around here has been the fans will show up and winning will cure whatever ills arise in the meantime. They are not winning, and all the ills remain. And I think what you see here, and last night was a great example of it, is a basketball program finally recognizing that it needs to do some work to mend some very broken fences with its fan base.
Yeah, Todd Leary was just on with us, and one of the things I mentioned to him was at least a generation of fans have been lost to be able to be cultivated to be IU fans because of this. And that is of great, you can withstand a few years here and there, but when you have that long of time extrapolated out, that'll catch up to you later. And you've got to do things to change that. And obviously Indiana is doing that now, but they've certainly missed out on the cultivation of new fans, especially in a new era.
No, yes. Just flatly, yes. And the thing is that the turnabout is true in football. Indiana is firmly on course for its 6th postseason in the last 11 seasons in football. There's every chance that we're going to be talking about Indiana as a playoff team again for the 2nd year in a row. It is not lost, not just on the department, but the university more widely, university leaders. It is not lost on them how quickly football has become a thing at a school where football was supposed to be dead on arrival. Like, forever the rule of thumb on Indiana was don't even try. That it's a pointless enterprise. And it is not lost on people that the minute Indiana fans were given something to believe in, and really, if you want to zoom in, even I would just say to the basically 2019 until now, Indiana fans showed up, Indiana fans checked in, Indiana fans engaged. You see the opposite happening in football. And if you're Indiana, you say, well, there's proof that it works. There's proof that if we take the time and we make the effort and obviously make the right decisions and win the games. Yes, I get that. But there's proof that it works. And I think your point is very valid, which is you've already lost a generation. And when we talk about, for years, people have said, well, these recruits don't think about Indiana the way that their fans think about Indiana. And that's true, at least to a certain extent. The recruits can still come in and say, wow, these are great facilities, and they clearly are investing in the program, and look at all these trophies and look at all these fans, whatever. To a certain extent, though, that was true, and it was a bit of an obstacle for Indiana. It remains an obstacle for Indiana. But it's a lot more dangerous when your fans stop expecting you to be excellent. It's one thing when you have to talk recruits into the idea of excellence as expectation in your program. And yes, it's a problem if, when you get to where Indiana has gotten to in some of these recruiting battles. But it is a much, much bigger and more fundamental problem when you have struggled for so long and you failed to meet your own expectations for so long that you start conditioning your fan base to lower theirs, because that's when some of the obstacles start to really calcify against you. And listen, if Darren DeVries is in a Final Four in his first 4 years in the job, then a lot of this gets turned around. Let's again, winning does cure everything. But right now, Indiana can't win. So Indiana can't sit there and say winning will cure everything. Indiana is 81-94 in the Big Ten in the last 9 years. Indiana doesn't get to say winning will cure everything anymore. Indiana's got to prove that it is capable of meeting whatever the expectations are, meeting those expectations for itself first. And the longer you go without doing that, the more of those fans you lose, not just the ones who can remember the way it was and are frustrated that it can't get back there. But to your point, perhaps even more crucially, the ones that you'll just never, the ones that you should pick up generationally that you just never will, because they'll look at Indiana basketball and they'll say, that does not hold any interest for me.
Yeah, and everything may not be fixed this year, but it is no doubt it is a start on the path to getting there for certain. None of us know what this team is going to actually do on the court as far as success, win losses this year, but they're going to have more wins than losses. But more importantly, they're going to put on a product that people enjoy watching, that people want to watch, I think the fans rather of that program are going to really enjoy and want to see more of and support more.
Yeah, at least in theory. You and I both saw them in Puerto Rico, and obviously, those are not perfectly analogous, sort of situations to what Indiana is going to see this season. But, I think this team should shoot the ball better. This team should score the ball better. This team, frankly, is probably going to have some defensive issues, which is going to maybe lead to some games that do feel that if nothing else, are just simply more exciting aesthetically, right? Because if everybody years ago, I'm not trying to name drop at all, but years ago I got to have lunch with Bob Ryan, and somehow someone brought up 90s NBA basketball, and he said it was exhausting for him to watch because it turned so negative and so defensive. And, you think about, there were like NBA Finals games in the 90s and early 2000s that would end like 78-69. Like just scores that seem almost brutal to us now. And he said something that always stuck with me. He said, basketball is an inherently offensive sport. No one ever goes out into their driveway alone and dreams about defending the game-winning shot. And there is an extent, like I have always carried that forward. There is an extent to which, like, basketball is, like, you can appreciate a great defensive display in football. You can appreciate a great pitching performance in baseball. Basketball is a sport best enjoyed when both teams are scoring, when the offense is good and the ball's moving and it's hitting the basket. And, I think this team is going to play some games like that this year. And so I don't know that, there are going to be times when they don't want to, and they're going to have to anyway, because again, I think there are going to be some defensive issues, but I think to your point, it is at very least going to be more exciting than anything IU fans have seen, at least consistently, over the last, 7, 8, 9 years. I don't want to I'm not going to sit here and make, grand pronouncements. I don't know exactly what to expect of this team in the Big Ten, because as is always the case annually, I don't know what to expect from the Big Ten anymore. I don't even remember, where half the players are. And even when you go look at the rosters and all this, like, none of us, there was no projection last year that said John Tanji was one of the best players in the Big Ten. Like, we've gotten to a place with the portal in particular where there is just so little certainty that you just have to kind of wait. Like, I put together all my preseason all Big Ten stuff. I voted in a couple different polls that asked for predicted order of finish. And the only, hard and fast rule I kept was I looked at Bart Torvik's rankings and I said I wasn't going to rank a team more than 4 spots away from where he had them. Because I just said, at very least, the analytics people have a body of data to input into their projections and say, this is what these players have done previously. This is what they might do together. That is about as firm or as trustworthy as any metric I can think of. So I'm not going to sit here and make grand predictions about what Indiana is going to accomplish this season, how far they're going to go, all that kind of stuff. But I do think that, if nothing else, Indiana is going to play a more aesthetically pleasing brand of basketball, and Indiana is probably going to play some games that are just exciting because they turn into shootouts.
Yeah, looking forward to that as well, to see what they can and cannot get done in this new era and a new Big Ten season coming up. Obviously, IU football off this weekend as they head out to their biggest game of the season so far, because if they were able to win that game, of course, then eyes will turn towards Happy Valley. But this is, I know that last year at Ohio State was the biggest road game in IU history at that point. I think this is going to now takes that place, because if they were to win this, because they lost that game, if they were to win this game, well, because of what it provides and the path it would put them on, it's going to be a very difficult chore. It's a difficult ask. Let's be honest. This is an Oregon team that just went to Happy Valley and pulled off that double overtime winner at Penn State. So they've got a week to get another week to get healed and get ready. The one thing I'll say about that game before I let you go, Zach, is I was rather surprised at the lack of adjustments made in the second half offensively. But I don't, maybe they were still holding on to stuff. I'm not sure, but they got the win, a very important win, a win that IU does not get in years past for certain. So we've seen the evolution of this program continue. Can they take that next step now?
Yeah. I mean, listen, I do think, like, under the hood, that the Iowa game was a little bit better for Indiana than it looked in the final score. And what I mean by that is, 233 and 2 touchdowns is a very passable day at Kinnick against Iowa for Fernando Mendoza. Indiana popped 6 runs of 10-plus yards. Iowa had only allowed 4 all season. Indiana turned Iowa over twice. Iowa had only turned the ball over twice going into that game all season. And Iowa had played at Rutgers and at Iowa State. That wasn't they hadn't played absolute world beaters, although the Cyclones might be really good this year. but that wasn't a function of them playing nobodies. Iowa had kind of Iowa, like, if we're talking about I think about this a lot in terms of variance. If we're talking about the likely outcomes of that game, if you take the box score and apply it to 1,000 simulations of what the final score might be, I suspect Indiana wound up on the low end of margin of victory. Indiana probably can argue it should have won that game by at least one more score. And listen, beating Iowa at Iowa, like, I said to somebody this week, it's the closest thing the Big Ten has to the option, not necessarily schematically, but philosophically. Iowa is such a distinct challenge in modern college football, even as they've updated their offense a little bit, and even as the program's evolved. Iowa at Kinnick is like being locked in an escape room. Like, you might get out, but you're not getting out until the game's over. And you almost have to. You almost have to like become Iowa to beat Iowa in that situation. And Indiana did. And, if that left fans with certain reservations about this team, I get it. I'd point out that Indiana's not won a game like that yet under Curt Cignetti in a genuine road environment, not like, Spartan Stadium was up for it for a little while and then they just kind of checked out the minute it got hard, but like a genuine road environment against a tough, well-coached team, maybe not a great team, but a team that is not going to let you win cheap. That was a good win for Indiana. I think we'll see how much of that carries into Autzen in I guess a week and a day now. It's not 2 weeks anymore. I don't know that this game is as important as Ohio State was. Like, I don't think the stakes are as high because there was genuine pressure on Indiana in that Ohio State game. There was sort of this, hey, you need to prove to us you've played a terrible schedule. You need to prove to us that you are as good as you say you are from a playoff perspective, from a sort of national rankings perspective. Indiana doesn't have that pressure here. Now, they don't want to go to Oregon and get blown out, but Indiana can lose this game and be fine. Indiana doesn't need a certain result in this game the way that it probably did in the Ohio State game. And Indiana also knows that it will get another crack at a quality road win later in the season against a Penn State team that it might match up even better with, although obviously that's another very difficult road environment, and Penn State's still very, very good. But I think Indiana gets to approach this game with less pressure than that Ohio State game because the sport is not – yes, I know there are still people that say, Indiana's not any good or look at their non-conference schedule or whatever, but the sport is not questioning Indiana this year the way it was last year. Like, by and large, college football recognizes, both because of what Indiana did last year and what they've done so far this season, that Indiana's a good team. And they don't have to go to Oregon and prove something, if that makes sense. And that's why I think there's a little bit less pressure on this game. And I think that's probably – to Indiana's benefit. I think that is probably, better for Indiana that they don't have to go out there and play tight and feel like the game has to go a certain way or they've failed. But it's going to be, listen, it's the biggest game. It's the biggest game of the month or the biggest game of the week next weekend.
Absolutely.
It's all eyes on Autzen and Indiana. Anytime Indiana is in a game like that, it is a growth moment for this program.
Zach Osterman from the Indy Star. Appreciate you, my friend. Enjoy your weekend.
Absolutely. You too, Jim. We'll see you around.
Thank you, sir. Hey, we've got more coming up. Alec Lasley joins us next here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio right after these messages.
The ISC Sports Network is your home for sports content across the Hoosier State. Find us live on TV and streaming or archived on our website and our app. The ISC is your one-stop shop for the content you want to see, including high school sports, college sports, and other great events throughout the year. Subscribe to our streaming service and get access to it all. ISC, local lives here.
Know a team or group needing a fundraiser? Boost Fundraising raises more money faster and offers the most unique and user-friendly online fundraiser in the nation. Your team receives personalized fundraising pages for each team member. Free team-branded promo gifts shipped to each donor. Boost Fundraising does it all. Sports teams, marching bands, charity causes, and community groups. Go to boostfundraising.com and be sure to enter the promo code COYLE, that's COYLE, to receive a discounted fundraiser. If you're looking for a new home in the Indianapolis area, you need Cheryl Sizemore from Brick and Ivy Realty. Cheryl Sizemore has over 2 decades of experience, and that could be the difference in getting the home you want in today's tough housing market. Reach out to Cheryl at CherylSizemore@gmail.com or 317-701-0838. That's 317-701-0838. Let Cheryl Sizemore sell or find your new home today. When it comes to apparel and promotions, Freethink has you covered, literally, whether it's 24 or 200 shirts for sports leagues, businesses, or groups. Freethink Apparel and Promotions can also create your very own merchandising store. Freethink Apparel and Promotions did it for Indiana Sports Beat Radio, and they can do it for you. Whether it's screen printing, embroidery, digital printing, promotional products, vehicle wraps, or anything else under the promotional line. See what Freethink Apparel and Promotions can do for you at freethinkapparel.com. Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio, rolling on. Alec Lasley from the Hoosier.com joins us now, and a lot of eyes off of football this week, Indiana, with the bye week, and a lot of eyes on basketball, Alec, as there has been a lot of events going on, and it continues this evening in Bloomington as the Hoosiers will be hosting a scrimmage for the public that begins, I believe it's 7 p.m. Doors open at 5:30. So you can get out and get your first look at this team that we've been talking about. And I think that they'll see a lot of what we saw the other day in the open practice to the media. And that is a heavy dose of defense and 3-point shooting.
Yeah. And just overall energy and excitement level to be out there. I mean, the biggest thing that we've talked about, right, even dating back to Puerto Rico, was the true competitive nature of this roster, and the fact that, you know, a lot of Indiana fans, you know, haven't seen that specific type of team in quite some time, where every play is almost do or die with this squad right now. They know that, you know, whether or not they may be the most skilled, every single time they match up with someone, they're always going to compete. They're always going to play with a great level of energy and intensity. And, you know, that strings from the coaching staff, that comes from, you know, Darren DeVries and what he's preached and how he's built this roster. It's, you know, going to be a quick moving team. It's going to be a fast team. It's going to be a team that wants to get up and down the floor. And it's just going to be a fun team to watch. And, you know, they're not going to win every game. But the games that they do lose this year are going to be a lot more enjoyable from a fan standpoint, because I highly doubt they're going to get blown out in any games. They're not going to just get, you know, wiped on the floor by any other team. They're going to always bring a very specific level of energy. And that's one thing that can always translate, can always travel. And I think the fan base is just excited to see this fresh start. And we saw it last night, right, on Kirkwood, and the excitement level of the students, what this coaching staff is doing with this program to connect and bridge that, you know, kind of make sure that there is no divide with the fan base, with the students, with the team, with the community, and really bringing together everyone into one. And I think, you know, this week kind of solidifies that with last night, with tonight. And then obviously in short term, in a week and a half, 2 weeks here, we get into the first exhibition game. Then shortly after, we get into Baylor. And then before you know it, you know, we're a month away from the regular season and getting tested very early on. So it's an exciting time for Indiana basketball here. But yes, very much highlighted by kind of the first real quote unquote action that fans can see from this team if they were not able to get down to Puerto Rico.
Absolutely. And they are a lot further ahead than they were down there, but that's what you expect. You know, I during the interviews this week, I used the example of football, how we anxiously watch teams from weeks 1 to 2, 2 to 3 to see the growth, the quick growth that we've seen on the football side of things with Indiana or whomever it might be. It's the same with this, especially this year, because prior to June, these guys had never laid eyes on each other, most of them, much less played together, much less played in the same system. So a lot of new things coming together. Some guys new to college, although Trent Sisley, from all indications, it's like he kind of had a little jump step, a semi-college role prior to getting here, because the step up has not been too big for him from everything that I'm hearing from the other players. Several of them said he's the one that has taken the biggest jump. And from a physical standpoint, hell, I can tell you that right now. He is added the weight. He has transformed his body, but his effort it's always been there, and it still remains there. But he's one of those guys. He's going to be a first rotation guy. And I don't know who else is going to be with them, but they've just got guys that are playing, that want to win. That's the one thing that you can see. And I remember going way back when this team was put together, not a lot of big names on it that people would have recognized, but they were all from one similar background. They all came from winning programs, whether it was being a player of the year in a conference or being on a conference champion or whatever it was. And every one of these guys, to a man, winning is of uber importance.
Yeah, and when you're building a roster, right, that's the end goal, is to win games. And it's difficult now with the day and age that we're in of NIL and the transfer portal to be able to get guys to buy in, I think, as quickly as this coaching staff has been able to do it. But it goes back to specifically how they've preached building this roster, and that goes into player first in terms of who they are. From a kind of off the court standpoint, and then how they fit schematically, and they want to make sure that they're building this roster with good people. And we heard Darren DeVries talk about it earlier this week as well, right? Where not a lot of fans know a lot about this team, and so that's a big portion of why they want to do all these events in the community, because they are such good players in terms of being able to play together, but also just such good people from that standpoint, and just wanting to win. A lot of them have talked about, obviously not knowing what it takes to play at Indiana, because they've never done that up to this point, but they know the tradition, they know what the fan base is like here, and they know that there's a very big hunger to win from a fan perspective, and they want to do that just as much as the fans do. And I think there's just a healthy dose of kind of collectiveness and togetherness from 1 to 13 on the roster all the way to the coaches, but then more specifically now with the fan base that I think is a lot more connected to this team, and a lot more involved with this team. You always need that in year one of a new coach, but I think more specifically with how the last 4 years, and specifically even the last 8 years, have really gone down, where there is a clear divide between the coaching staff and the head coach and this fan base. Darren DeVries has done everything that he can to kind of clean that up in 6 months' time. Obviously needs to produce on the court in order to keep the fan base happy, but I think he's checked every single box up to this point, and the fans are going to be extremely happy to see the roster that's put together from everything that we've talked about.
And the one thing we've talked about a few things on this show today is that we're telling fans what they're probably going to enjoy seeing from this team, from the program, how it's changed a little bit from what we have seen. But at the same time, they probably can also chalk that up to, we've heard that. And there's a lot of truth to that, because, Indiana brought in one of the top, if not the top portal classes last year, was pointless because it was like having, all the great pieces, but you're to a puzzle, but you can't put the puzzle together. If you can't put the puzzle together, it doesn't matter that you have all the right pieces.
No, absolutely. And I think that's the biggest difference, though, with the roster construction, right, has been Indiana's not gone out and just gone for the flashy names, right? I mean, they did that with Lamar Wilkerson, who was, highly, highly touted by multiple different programs. But, outside of him, a lot of the guys that they got were names that, were maybe the, third or fourth options for teams, even in the transfer portal, right? Like a guy like Sam Alexis, a guy like Reed Bailey, who not a lot of people, really know about. Super, super talented, super versatile. But they, Tate Conaway, right? Player of the year in the Sun Belt. They cemented them, kind of the backcourt, right, with guys like, Nick Dorn and Jason Drake, just different pieces that fit specifically to the system that Darren DeVries wants to run. But that's the thing, right? I mean, Mike Woodson tried to go out, and that coaching staff tried to go out and get, very, very sexy names and force them into the system that they were running, right? We don't need to harp on it, right? But they did not adjust their system to their roster. And, this coaching staff is making sure that the players that they're bringing in are very, very specific to the roster or to the system that they want to run. So it's more of them just learning the system, not trying to force the system upon them. And so that's the biggest thing of how these rosters have been totally different, and why, I think there's probably still very cautiously still excitement, but I think more optimism than what I think there has been in the last couple of years, just because there was so much of, we're going to change, but then there never was from a system standpoint and from a play style standpoint. And so I think this year that's why there should be probably a little bit more excitement, because those players fit specifically into what Darren DeVries' system is going to be.
Well, speaking of that, without giving it all away, I know that there is a lot of inside intel up at thehoosier.com regarding Ethan Taylor, Anthony Thompson, and Latrell Allman. Three very, very big names that Indiana is locked in with as far as being in the final stages of recruitment with all three of these. Top 25 prospect Ethan Taylor. It's been back and forth. Where, without giving it all away, where are things with him?
Yeah, so right now he's on his visit to Michigan State. Everything that I've been told here over the last 2 weeks, right, ever since he took his visit to Indiana and kind of leading into that visit, had been that Kansas had kind of fallen from maybe that top line to clearly that second line. And it looked like Michigan State was probably that other team to really be competing for him with Indiana. So obviously a very critical visit. There was some back end chatter that maybe he wouldn't take the rest of his visits. That still could be a potential option. I don't think he still has Kentucky coming up, and that's in a couple of weeks here. I don't really see Kentucky as an option in this. It looks like it will probably come down to Indiana and Michigan State for Ethan Taylor at this current moment. Davion Atkins, who Indiana was recruiting, is expected by all accounts to land at Kansas when he announces. I believe it's on Sunday. And if so, there's been some conflicting intel there on whether or not Kansas will take two bigs. They've traditionally only taken one. It seems like they will continue down that route and probably only take one. And that looks like it's going to be Davion Atkins at this point. So that puts Indiana right in an even better spot there for Ethan Taylor. Rod Clark's done a phenomenal job with him. And then, kind of all attention turns to Anthony Thompson then at that point. A lot of talk that a decision could come here in the next couple of weeks. Is pretty much settled in on, Indiana, Ohio State. Michigan is still kind of in there, and then maybe Kentucky. But the only thing that Kentucky has going against them right now is the fact that they are obviously heavily involved with the number one overall player in the class, Tyron Stokes. And that announcement for him, that commitment, is not expected to take place in the next couple of weeks. And Kentucky's going full-fledged into that recruitment. So they will not take, from what I've been told, they will not likely take a commitment from Anthony Thompson if they feel very good with Tyron Stokes. And Indiana seems to be sitting in a very good spot for Anthony Thompson. Ohio State, the hometown school there, has put together a very good NIL package. So we'll see what happens when it comes to that. But in the top two with both of those players so far, and then Latrell Allman's been the one that had a lot of steam early in the summer, had a lot of steam kind of into the summer, I would say, and then there's been a lot of quiet time over the last I would say month leading into the middle portions of September, where he's gone on 3 straight visits. Right now, it still appears to be an Indiana versus Tennessee battle, but Oklahoma State is one team that has always been mentioned, but has been mentioned even more over the past couple of weeks. Obviously, for Oklahoma State to get a player like Latrell Allman would be extremely significant in their kind of recruiting stages and in their program. And with Indiana, right, where they're sitting with Anthony Thompson, I think they get, in my opinion, I think they get one of the two of Anthony Thompson or Latrell Allman. I don't believe they end up getting both. But you can't go wrong with where they're at in either of those spots. So, if you're looking at it from Latrell Allman, it goes, Indiana, Tennessee, and then Oklahoma State is kind of the core 3 in that recruitment. And it seems to be a little bit murkier than if you were looking at Anthony Thompson or Ethan Taylor from Indiana's perspective at this point. But, as you look at October 3rd, most of these decisions here between all 3 are expected this month. And so you're going to know a lot about this Indiana recruiting class in the next couple of weeks. And I think it's going to be with the addition of at least 1, if not potentially 2. We'll obviously see what happens. But Indiana you couldn't ask for a better spot to be in with 3, top 25, top 30 prospects at this point in the latter stages of all 3 recruitments.
And then, of course, Latrell Allman, did you mention him?
Yeah, we just talked about him with Indiana, Tennessee, and Oklahoma State is those 3.
One of the bigger surprises to me was getting the commitment of Chase Branham out of the 2027 class. You normally are not seeing that right now in this era of name, image, likeness, and all of that. But to get that's kind of impressive, especially with this kid's a 4-star point guard. And you chose Indiana over Tennessee and Iowa, a few other programs, but getting that year ahead, a little surprising for someone ranked that highly.
Yeah, I mean, it had appeared when we broke the news that he would be taking his official visit to Indiana and had a couple other official visits set up for September and October. This was back in later stages of July, I believe it was, early August, that it had appeared he would be making an early decision. Everything had pointed to Indiana and Iowa as the 2 programs that were head and heels above every other program in that recruitment. And it just was going to come down to whether or not everything that he needed to hear from an Indiana standpoint happened on his visit. And, when I talked to him, and this is our exclusive Q&A up at the Hoosier.com after he did commit to Indiana, right? A lot of it went into just making sure that the style of play and the fit was exactly what he needed. He's a guy who can play both on and off the ball, a guy who can play with the ball in his hands and orchestrate the offense, but also score. And so, perfect fit for what this offense is, with multiple guards on the floor, multiple perimeter players and ball handlers. So it was a perfect matchup, and Darren DeVries had been extremely involved from day one. Nick Norton was the lead assistant on that recruitment. Played at the same AAU program that Chase Branham plays on. So there were extremely deep connections already there, and Indiana jumped in early. Indiana was heavily involved early, and head coaching involvement was obviously something critically important in this one. And that's why both Indiana and Iowa were the 2 teams that were way out in front, because Ben McCollum also saw Chase Branham numerous times throughout the summer, just as Darren DeVries did.
Yeah, and we saw Junior County off the board now to Kansas, so Indiana will go forward.
UConn
rather. Man,
yep.
My bad. UConn. So picking up some more good recruits up there for Mr. Hurley. Well, what else? Last thing, what you got going at the Hoosier.com? I know a lot of great bits of information there. Still got a great deal. And for people that don't know, subscribers to the Hoosier.com also get a subscription to The Athletic, in addition to all the national coverage and local breaking information as well.
Yeah, obviously, we're starting to take some early looks at Oregon. Obviously, both teams with a bye this week, so it gives us a little bit of a better understanding of kind of where they sit heading into next week. So I have a full notebook up already of Dan Lanning's press conference earlier this week, some of the keys that he was talking about. Obviously, still have a lot of stuff coming up from IU's kind of informal media day that they had earlier this week. And then we'll have obviously full coverage of the scrimmage tonight with some other stuff coming up this weekend. But just quickly on Russell's question, if it comes down to money related to Anthony Thompson, Indiana does have the money to compete with Ohio State. The big thing that I've been told multiple times is Ohio State, and you can take this for kind of what it's worth when it comes to quote unquote overpaying for someone. But there's the expectation that Ohio State will go above what Indiana will put together because they don't really have a true backup option at that position. Again, Indiana could still go the route of Latrell Allman if they don't get Anthony Thompson, and they feel very good about where they're at with all both of those. So they're not going to stretch the limits because they want to make sure that they have enough to solidify the rest of their 2026 class. But don't think it fully comes down to that. There's going to be a lot of other options there when it comes to that decision.
Alec Lasley from the Hoosier.com. Make sure you're going there and getting yourself a subscription. You're missing out if not. Appreciate you, my friend.
I appreciate it, Jim. Have a good off weekend here.
Hey, never off, man. Never off. Got the scrimmage tonight, but appreciate you. You as well. Back with J.D. Campbell and talk some baseball after this short break. Andy Moore Honda is Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer for a reason. Buy a new Honda and get a 3-month break from car payments. That's right, no payments for 90 days. That includes the all-new, all-electric Honda Prologue, and you get it for just 0.9% financing, or the 2024 Honda Ridgeline Black Edition, or the Honda Accord LX, both for just 1.9% financing. Get more to your door from AndyMooreHonda.com, Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer and your best place for new and used vehicles. If you're looking for a new home. All right, I'm going to make that break a little bit shorter. Apologies to Cheryl Sizemore, but make sure you reach out to Cheryl at Brick and Ivy Realty for any of your needs in the, especially in the Indianapolis area. J.D. Campbell, big baseball fan, former IUSID. Right. The first thing I want to ask, though, what kind of a heart attack would you be having? Oh, I shouldn't have brought that one up.
Yeah, that's okay.
Oh, damn. Sorry about that. J.D. did go through some heart issues. But what kind of, if you didn't already have them, and this is maybe an indication of how someone in this business gets them, would you have been dealing with all the things that are going on now? We've been talking a lot about how Darren DeVries is really making an effort to open the Indiana program up to fans, to the media, and to make it as for people to be acquisitioned as much as possible. The big event down on Kirkwood last night, but those are kind of headaches for those in your former line of work.
Well, it really depends on how you look at it, and it all depends on when your relationship with the coach begins, and you kind of lay out the map of the land of what you're dealing with. It seems to me that IU's doing everything correctly to, get connected with people that maybe, had some frustration over recently and stuff like that. But, I think there was a comment that you made earlier, or that, the success on the court is always what is the baseline for Indiana basketball. But, like I say, I don't even know what's going on with just about everything in the sports world. Because I did go to Detroit last weekend for the Lions and Browns to see my son. Went to a church so big I thought that each section of the church had its own area code. And I'll be very honest. I fell asleep in church after the drive because we leave Saturdays at 8 a.m., drive through, stopped at the one stop at Michigan we always got off on, and my wife was yelling at me like, "What are you doing? What are you doing? What are you doing?" And it was the one we always got off to go to Chrysler Arena and the Big House, and there was a Luke Bryan concert going on.
Oh, wow.
And so there was a big, I said, I don't think Michigan plays, but and one trivia question: my wife went to the same high school as Sharon Moore.
Wow.
Derby, Kansas. So let's get to baseball, Jim.
Well, my Reds are out.
Yes.
Your Braves were never in, although your former catcher David Ross interested in their managing position that's open. But I'm surprised that the Dodgers are going to. We've only got like 5 minutes as well, unfortunately, because everything went long. But I'm surprised the Dodgers are playing the Phillies. But I guess they can't control that with how it works out. And then you've got divisional foes, Milwaukee and the Cubbies playing again. So I guess things work out how they're supposed to work out.
Well, let me talk about a couple former Braves, three former Braves that I think are going to have a huge impact. And maybe I can go four, but first off, the former hitting coach that they let go last year, Kevin Seitzer, has really done what, you remember the Braves a few years ago said all these offensive records, but Kevin Seitzer and the Mariners, and especially with Cal Raleigh, just you can't look at Seattle's a completely different ball club, and they're good now for a reason. And with that pitching and the Tigers, the Tiger stuff, they're all going to be great series. I go to the Milwaukee Cubs. You got Dansby Swanson against William Contreras, the catcher for the Brewers, who they got rid of in the Sean Murphy deal. And, he's blossomed into a great power hitter. And again, power from a catcher is really good. And then, of course, with the Cubs, you got Dansby Swanson, he's a big gamer all his life. And I'll never forget meeting him when we went to Vanderbilt's practice, and he came up to Tom Cream and said, "Hey, Coach, thanks for coming to watch me when I was playing basketball." It's because he grew up in Kennesaw. So the baseball is as healthy as it's ever been. More so now than probably, I can't even tell you. More people are talking about baseball, and it is football season. It's every season right now. But, baseball right now on a world stage is as big as anything. And I
was thinking that last night because watching some of the games, every team has foreign players on it, whether they're from Japan or Korea or other Asian countries, especially, but then again, Central America. But it is becoming an international sport, kind of unbelievably. It's probably one of the last sports you would think that would be that international, other than, the South America or Central American countries, but it certainly has.
Well, that's one of the things that, baseball has really corrected. First one is the pace of play. Games are going 2:30, 2:14. Like I watched the Red Sox and Yankees along with watching my Rams fumble away a win. And I thought, 3 or 4 years ago, that's a 4 or 5 hour game. And now, yesterday, you had the Indians and Tigers at 3, and then the Cubbies started at 5, and the Yankees at 8, and none of them were sent to another network, and that's a big thing for fans. As fans are tuning back in because they're not having to invest the whole day to watch the game of baseball, and certainly, you got great rivalry. Shohei, Bryce Harper, The one to watch for me in this Phillies-Dodgers series is Walker Buehler starting for the Phillies. And you know as well as I do, it's about motivation, and it's about, give somebody an edge. Give somebody an edge. Yesterday, I was listening to MLB Network Radio, and Steve Phillips called Milwaukee and Cubs the JV. And I thought, because and we've seen that with Coach Signetti. They'll use every motivational tool possible to get your team. And, with the Tigers, who is the team that we're following the most because of our Detroit connection now. They can't hit. And the catcher Dingler was the guy that really kind of put them over the edge. And the same thing with their bullpen. But it's all going to come down to bullpens, big plays. And so, get your 7 devices around you this weekend, because between college football and NFL and baseball, it's going to be a great weekend. And I'm glad I'm home, because I'm going to be grilling. I'm going to be grilling.
And we've got Aaron Judge with 53, Shohei Ohtani with 55, and Kyle Schwarber with 56 home runs.
Yeah.
Besides Cal Raleigh with Seattle at 60 already. But Kyle Schwarber, man, does he get to 60 home runs?
Well, people are talking about, Kyle Schwarber and what the season that he's had. And, Kyle's a winner. He won at every level. And, he comes up, he like I say, he hit one out in Omaha. And that's probably one of the toughest ballparks in America, especially at the college level, to hit a home run. And so, someone asked Charlie Sheen yesterday, I think it was on the Rich Eisen show, because he once bought out a whole section to catch a home run ball in Anaheim. And Eisen asked him if he would consider doing that now. And he said, well, I might do it for like Schwarber or somebody like that. He goes, but the problem is I might have to buy a seat outside the stadium, because he's known for blasting them farther than anybody. So, let's have fun. Let's enjoy it. Let's not worry about things. And, baseball's fun. This is 1970s. This is Bert Campaneris throwing a bat and not getting suspended. I don't even remember the last time there was a brawl in the postseason. And, I remember George Brett getting thrown at by the Phillies in 80. And certainly the Pete Rose, Bud Harrelson one in 73, because I was a Reds fan back then. And still am. I mean, yesterday I wore a Cubs hat. I wore a Tampa Tarpons shirt, because Tampa is the single A affiliate of the Yankees, and that's George Steinbrenner Field, which, if you've never been to George Steinbrenner Field in Tampa, it's a bucket list. For minor league parks are so good now anyway. And then I wore navy blue shorts for the Tigers. So,
Covered all the bases, man, and that's very appropriate. Well, hopefully we can do this again as the playoffs roll on. And I hope you get to enjoy a nice, calm weekend.
Oh, man. I don't know if I may not even get out of bed. I may just stay in my room and watch everything and take no phone calls, return no texts, and, eat some healthy barbecue. How's that?
That sounds like a winner, baby. JD Campbell, appreciate you as always. Big thanks to everybody for joining us today. Most importantly, each and every one of you. Enjoy your weekend. Get to watch some football of other teams and Major League Baseball playoffs. Back with more on Monday. Appreciate everybody. Until then, I'm Jim Coyle. I will see you on the radio.
Thanks for listening to Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube page for more clips and team coverage of Indiana basketball, football, and more. You can also find full episodes and tons of other content on thehoosier.com. We'll see you next time for another edition of Indiana Sports Beat Radio.